Hello YouTube, welcome to another episode of my character analysis series. This time we'll be covering a very controversial character in the Monogatari series. So, let's begin. The price of being cute is one that is often scoffed at as nothing more than mere ungratefulness. To be born with a favorable appearance should be considered like striking gold. It should be winning the lottery and something that will lead to a flower-filled path in life. But what happens when that perception is flipped on its head? And that brings forth Nadeko Sengoku from the brilliant Monogatari series. When we first meet Nadeko, the impression she gives off is of shyness and complete isolation. She's never seen with another person besides when she interacts with Koyomi in the beginning. And even the friendship that leads her to him in childhood with Tsukiji is hinted to be a distant at this point. Nadeko can barely gather her words properly, often bumbling and stuttering, and barely says anything that would make her stand out. And this is most seen in her early appearance and the lack of screen time she had leading up to season 2. Nadeko gets a lot of hate slinged her way, and I understand to a degree why she is so hated, but for me, I couldn't help but feel she is misunderstood, and not even Koyomi can understand that. The awkward nature behind their relationship was hinted to me by how robotic they were. Never did they sit down and have a chat, a meaningful chat, and be natural together. And in part, that's due to Nadeko's persona placing a wall between them while meaning to do the opposite. She doesn't give him the opportunity to get closer to her because she can't bring herself to talk to him daringly. Because Nadeko simply doesn't talk daringly. She sits on the sideline and hopes Koyomi will come to her, but Koyomi doesn't even talk to her unless there's an issue to solve. He doesn't see her as anything more than a cute childhood friend of his sister, a nice girl, a shy girl, an innocent girl. These labels, the labels that are what brings her trouble, the labels that she hates, are also what keep her away from him. Nadeko purposely tries to hide her looks, often sporting really hideous fashion choices and sporting bangs to hide her face. In fact, the only time we see and she felt the need to show her face was when Koyomi came over to her house. She, for the first time, used her looks as an advantage, dressing in quite flamboyant clothes and suggesting quite a suggestive game of Twister, flirting with him. This is the first time we see Nadeko really on the offensive. When Koyomi sees her face, he says that he likes her better this way and that she should keep her looks. He should keep this look. And Nadeko says to him that as long as he asks, she will try her best. Now for me this was a very important moment because Nadeko, for Koyomi, for the sake of luring him to her, almost broke character, I would say. She went on a completely different trajectory than what we were led to believe. The girl who dresses in baggy clothing and looks down and all these things completely switched. I mean, she was still shy, but it was a completely different layer to her, and it showed me that Koyomi could be a savior for her. Now, she never really tries her best, of course, because there's no other time where she needs to. Everything else in her life besides Koyomi is manageable as long as she sneaks by. As long as she nods and looks down, people will pity her cute face. Countless characters constantly point this out to her, almost cruelly, and no other example stands out to me more than Shinobu. Now Shinobu is a liked character of mine, but her action towards Nadeko during episode 13 of season 2 was really disappointing to me. She really spewed some rather venomous words towards Nadeko, and to this day the only reason I could think of was that Nadeko annoyed her. I just can't accept this, and not to blame Shinobu, but this didn't exactly help Nadeko's mental state. She was already rolling off the deep end, but this didn't help her path. The fact that this bothered her could be seen in the very next scene with Tsukiji, as she vigorously denies her being cute when Tsukiji showers her with compliments about her looks, going as far as implying the only reason she ever even began to be friends with her was for that very reason. When Nadeko begins to question her in her usual very shy manner, Tsukiji doesn't accept this and asks her what she means. Now immediately Nadeko backs off and retreats and attempts to apologize her way out of this, but Tsukiji doesn't take the bite. She questions her more and more. Eventually, the whole scene reaches a climax with Tsukiji claiming she is bored with Nadeko's situation involving her brother and Nadeko in general, and that she will help her. But what happens next is truly unexpected. Tsukiji grabs a pair of scissors and cuts her bangs off. Nadeko screams in horror as she just cannot believe what just happened. She is now forced to face the world, or rather the world can now face her, both equally terrifying premises to Nadeko. The gazes of people no longer reflected off her bangs like a wall. Now they could face her and she could face them. Even her homeschool teacher, her homeroom teacher doesn't recognize her at first. Tsukiji is a very blunt character, so her actions didn't come across as overly surprising. But I can't help feeling everyone is so brutally terrible to Nadeko in these kind of moments. Ogi, Shinobu, Tsukiji all throw her brutally away, as if she's some terrible parasite, simply watching from afar, not wanting to dirty themselves with her scent, away, all analyzing and criticizing her, while lacking that care that's needed. I can't fully believe anyone in this show up to this point truly cared about Nadeko. To me, it all seemed like she was easy prey, and that her quiet nature led to them making these statements or actions against her. I'm not saying any of them were wrong, what they were saying. It's just that the place where those words were coming from was misguided, and the timing is everything with someone like Nadeko, who was already wrestling with sanity as it is. All this verbal stoning leads to Nadeko snapping away the carefully planned image she had built at school. All of a sudden, the unnoticeable girl who blended with the shadows was the main attraction at the theater. Everything from her tone to her words and actions completely flip over in the glorious scene of her going around the school, letting every last bit of bottled up anger she had in her heart flow out. Was this needed? Somewhat, I suppose. At some point, this had to happen. At some point, she had to stop pretending. But Nadeko was not guided with gentle arms. You can be assured of that. She was hurled out of an helicopter and told to fly. This is no way to handle somebody like her. But like I said, Nadeko had no one but the wrong people for her around her. She had faults, and like Tsukiji says, it is her fault she is nothing but cute. She could have worked on herself. She could have built more of a personality. And throughout the show, she does improve on this. But the situation could have been handled much smoother. Just the way they handled her was not right. She had mental issues, and it seemed nobody really was fragile with her. Also, I noticed both Shinobu and Tsukiji commented that Nadeko was the second cutest, only behind each of them. This may be overanalyzing, but I do believe this hints at the enjoyment both took in tearing her down and building her back up. Both said things that would shatter her act and herself, but then presented her with alternatives that were poorly planned in Tsukiji's case, or empty in care in Shinobu's case. By the time Nadeko was fully consumed by Kuchinawa, her own creation or her own self, she is complete. Her descent is now finished, and by the time Koyomi catches her oogling away at his magazines, Nadeko is finally complete. And as Shinobu throws another verbal assault, this time she doesn't find another defenseless, weak Nadeko. No, now she's beaten down, and Koyomi bears the most damage. Before Nadeko swallows the talisman, he tries to pull out a speech about how sorry he was for not noticing her, and how she still has time to change. For the first time, she has this type of attention from him. But I have to question how genuine this apology is. I mean, we know Koyomi is a selfless person who usually acts with everyone's betterment in mind, but this situation really called for him to panic, and maybe these words were said in a hasty damage control. But then again, this may be just me showing my bitterness, speaking as I really wanted to see more from Koyomi in this situation, but I think I may have been expecting too much from him. Anyways, as I was saying, it's too late. When he tries to protect Shinobu from Nadeko, Nadeko goes berserk and stabs him repeatedly, while asking why he didn't try and save her, the way he's trying to save her now. Why he didn't pay any attention to her. And you know what? I see her point in a way. I don't agree with her hurting him, and especially the batshit spree she goes on after this, but I can sort of understand her. I don't agree with her hurting him, or anybody else, but it's just the place she's coming from. I see where she's coming from. A scene I wanted to highlight was the scene with Shinobu still attempting to mock and backtalk Nadeko, while she and Koyomi had gotten the spit slapped out of them. The arrogance and lack of respect for Nadeko is still very much present, while this time justifiably warranted. But it really showed me Shinobu's absolute hatred for Nadeko. But this time, Nadeko was in control. No more talking under her breath and routinely apologizing. She was in power, and she let Shinobu feel it. As ironic as this was the first time Shinobu didn't win a fight against her. This type of power must have been like starving and finding some mouth-watering food by her bedside. All the terrible thoughts that were building and lurking inside of her were given that little push they needed in order to grow into the god she becomes. But now, like I just mentioned, she is a god. Everything goes. But still, Nadeko is still a naive child in a way. Once she spoke to the calm and collected Hitagi on the phone, the other half of her rage, she was swindled into giving them more time, and even attempts to build some sort of connection with her by suggesting that maybe they would have been friends. For me, this hinted at Nadeko having some sort of appreciation, or a better word would be some admiration for Hitagi and the way she handled it. Maybe she thought, this is a cool older girl that I could be friends with. But she's shut down because obviously she's trying to murder her and her boyfriend, so she's not really going to receive a warm welcome. But I think Nadeko even suggesting that they would be friends shows a certain level of insanity at this point. And the face she makes after Hitagi brutally rejects her and says that she hates cute girls like her more than her former self really shows how far Nadeko's fallen at this point. And she even decides to let her give her a killing order, an order of how to kill them. Maybe it was because she wanted to establish a goal to look forward to. We know she didn't have anything to live for anyways at this point. Her closeted dream of being a manga artist was locked away along with any shred of what we see as God Nadeko. But just like her sanity began to crack, so was this dark secret. Kaiki is brought in to finish the job, and he does so in his usual manner. He discovers a lot about her, and even for the motives of stopping her. He is the first person who actually takes an interest to uncover her. Nadeko was never interesting enough for anyone, and she played this to the maximum, constructing a public persona she could get by in. Wanting to please her parents, maybe, wanting to please her classmates, or maybe the person who she loved, who she burdened with her love, like Koyomi. But this doesn't necessarily cover the case that nobody knew her. Even she didn't know herself. So Kaiki doing this really solved the problem, of course. Now, also another thing was the way she views Araragi. He is a deity figure for her, a savior, a messiah to lead her from all her problems, the way he was for everyone else. All the other girls he had saved, but not her. No, she was far too pushy, and her vomit-inducing personality. This was Koyomi, after all. A person who can't remember simple memories, can't be asked to remember a bumbling girl whose only connection to him was a half-assed friendship with his little sister. But no matter, she didn't receive Koyomi's never-ending sacrifice. But she lived. She struggled, but she lived. All the madness and was now complete. With Kaiki's work, she found that string back into humanity, the thing that shamed her the most. Manga. Ironic that the girl with no personality of her own, no friends, and for the longest time had a trance placed on herself, was in love with creating stories. and that is her salvation. The girl who denied her natural beauty, the girl who never had a natural nature she could be proud of, and that the nature she did have was leading to her destruction. I would go as far as saying Nadeko can even be a criticism of beauty-obsessed culture. After all, I hate cute girls like you the most. I wanted to be friends with you because you were cute. You're lucky you were born cute. It must have been the greatest advantage. You should keep it like this. You look much cuter. Were words that were second nature to her ears. Nadeko is complicated in her simplicity. She does wrong. She makes galactic mistakes and unforgivable actions to many standards, including mine, but I feel sympathy for her. And through my cheering for someone to lead her that helping hand, I thought she desperately needed, until I gave up as I reached the final stages of her arcs, where hope for her seemed lost. Maybe I fell into the trap, and maybe I was enabling her by not realizing that she needed to help herself. But a little sympathy goes a long way, and it doesn't change that Nadeko is a character I will never hate. And near the end of Owari Monogatari Season 2, we see that Nadeko's hairstyle has changed. Now the bangs are just a little bit shorter than they were previously, and you could see a lot more of her face. Now, there's no way this was just an empty act. I feel this was a way to show us the process of Nadeko's growth, of her recovery. Now she could bear to face the world a little bit more. Now she could see, and she wanted people to see her a little bit more, and that she could bear with it. I thought that was very warm and beautiful, and I hope to see more of her in the future, because I believe she's a truly lovely character underneath all of it, and I hope that she continues on this path of recovery. Now, previously, a long time ago, I had made a Senju Gohara video. That video was very flawed, very not very well done, I would say. My thoughts on the show at that point were mostly held to a perspective of me not having rewatched it for years, and even when I did rewatch it, being so young at the time, I did not really understand it, and honestly didn't really try to understand it more than what was shown to me. Now that I have a bigger grasp of the show, I feel I will have to redo a video about Hitagi, because she's one of my favorite characters in the show, probably my favorite, besides maybe Kambaru. So I will have to make it up to her and do a great video, because I believe that she deserves it. She's a great character, and I hope maybe that will come out someday. So thank you for watching, and I hope maybe this might have helped you see Nadeko in a different manner, or maybe for people who already like Nadeko, then I hope that she continues to be liked. So yeah, thank you and have a nice day.